if you've got elbow pain when you are training triceps and biceps, then I'm going to tell you 5 things that you can do to actually avoid that pain and still continue making progress, going to the gym and enjoying pain-free workouts. So I'm going to tell you what's worked for me, and I'm going to recommend some other sources at the end from more qualified people that you can look at. So just a little bit about my story with my elbow pain, my right elbow, the outside. I don't know if you get pain over there. There's different, tendonitis that you can get, but I'm 48 years old. So when I was in my 20s, I could get away with murder. In my late 40s, I can't get away with murder. If you are, in your late 40s, maybe you got into training heavier later in life, or maybe you used to train a lot when you were younger, started training again. What you might find is that, like me, your muscle memory is still there. And so your muscles sort of get stronger faster, but your tendons and your ligaments don't necessarily adapt as quickly. Now, there's 2 ways that people deal with this. Way number 1 is that they just give up and stop lifting, which I don't really think is normally the right approach. Don't get me wrong, it can be the right approach if you've got a severe injury. You don't want to just train through it. But at the same time, a lot of the time, small changes that you make can heavily impact how much pain you feel. And training through injury pain is not good. But there are many ways that you can modify your workouts that have worked for me that may work for you as well. So the first thing is you want to look at how you can stimulate the muscle as much as possible with as little weight as possible. So even though I prefer lifting heavier and working on strength as opposed to hypertrophy, we have to be realistic here as well. So at the end of the day, when we're training isolation movements, the truth is it's not as much a strength movement as something like a compound lift, like a deadlift, a bench press, etc. So if you're doing biceps and triceps, try go higher in terms of your reps than you would normally. So I'm talking literally 20 to 30 reps per set. As long as you go to failure or close to failure, you can still get a fantastic workout on very, very light weights. Just remember, like I said, your tendons and ligaments don't always adapt as well as your muscle tissue. The second point is just use a controlled training tempo, because remember, your muscles and your tendons work together. So if your muscles don't act as a brake, then your tendons have to. Another thing is just normally you would lock out your elbow on certain movements, but when you're injured, it's often better to avoid the lockout. So I'm actually going to give examples of each one once I've gone through the points. The third point is if you are getting your pain on something that is a compound lift, like maybe you're getting your pain on something like a bench press, for example, just remember that if you are trying to put a lot of the focus onto your triceps by putting your arms in, you're obviously going to have a more of a moment arm. So there's going to be more leverage that's placing force on the fulcrum that's actually your elbows. So if you're getting your elbow pain on the bench press, something that helped me a fortune was just to actually widen my grip, to go wider than vertical. That puts less elbow strain. And then I would say number 4 is to try different grip rotations. First of all, what you use as a tool can influence this. So often cables and dumbbells allow more natural rotation than a bar. That's not always the case for everybody, but it definitely was for me. And the last thing is listen to your pain. And I know that sounds a bit wacky, but you need to find ways to work out and avoid it. So I'm not talking about working through the pain, because working through the pain, you could really end up injuring yourself worse. So try to do as much as possible without pain. I want to give you just some points that really have helped me that are very specific, and maybe yours will be slightly different. But going back to point number 1, working up to sets of 30, where I would normally for biceps and triceps do anywhere sort of 8 to 12 reps. per set, depending where I fail, I go all the way up to 30. And I go a much, much lower weight. In terms of your training tempo, which was the second point I discussed, just remember that you can actually get a great eccentric workout. So what I'm talking about eccentric is you've got your muscles contracting and you've got your muscle in an eccentric motion. So if you drop it, it's hard to show on the video. I'm going to maybe put my arm like this, but instead of just dropping the weight down, for example, on a bicep curl, move the weight down slowly in a controlled manner. And just by slowing the tempo, your muscles can act as a brake and help your tendons out. Grip rotation, which I discussed earlier, really makes a massive difference for me. So examples would be, if you want to train your brachialis, the muscle in between there, what I'll often use is a neutral grip like this. Now, the problem with that, for me personally, and this may be different for you, is it actually does, as soon as I go anywhere above a real minimal weight, it puts a lot of strain there. So what does this limit me to? This basically limits me to a supinated grip, okay? Supinated, so my hand's up like that. Now, the thing is, I still get a fantastic contraction. And there's actually a lot that you can do. Unfortunately, I'm in my study, which is full of boxes and things, and I can't demonstrate well. But you can lie on a bench, have your elbows behind you on, let's say, a 45-degree angle, work the long head of your bicep with a supinated grip. You can stick, if you've got a bench at your gym, again, you can stick it at a 45-degree angle. You can work the short head like this. Would it be good to work my brachialis as well? Of course it would. But the reality is that I'd rather, if I'm injured, not do that movement and, at the end of the day, heal. Because if you don't heal properly, ultimately you're going to wind up with a big problem, and it's going to definitely affect your longevity, your health of your joints, and really your compound lift. So the different grip rotations for me have been the biggest game changer. When it comes to triceps, another thing is, your triceps have got 3 heads, and they do get worked by different grips. Now, a lot of the time, the big, how do I put it? The thing that's helped me a lot is to actually start with my grips like this, do a tricep push down, and once my joints have loosened up like that, again with lightweight, then I'll go to something where there's a full stretch, and something that's helped me also with my elbows, instead of going all the way to lockout, which I find does put a bit of strain on my elbow joint, I won't fully extend. Now, I know that full range of motion is something that can be beneficial for a lot of exercises, but there were recent studies, I think it was Dr. Milo Wolf, but I'm open to correction, I think spoke about lengthened partials. And so basically where you are working from a fully stretched position and not going full extension, and you actually still get most of the benefit of the exercise. So I really don't think you're going to lose much in terms of your gains if you do that. And then lastly, I think that what I would recommend is, if the pain persists for more than a couple of weeks, go see a physio, because you may need some sort of rehab more than what just a guy on YouTube can give you. I also recommend, there's a video by Menno Henselmans on the same topic. He really gives outstanding advice, and I'd recommend you watch his video on elbow pain when you are doing tricep work. I'd be interested to know in the comments how long you've had your elbow pain. If you had elbow pain and you've managed to get past it, and are you stronger than you were before, what worked for you? So maybe I hope my tips will help you. But if you've got tips that I didn't cover, then please, return the favor and tell me in the comments what worked for you, and share it with the rest of the people watching. Thanks a lot. Have a good one.